to get exposure to, let's say, our India private credit business without having to set up the operational thing themselves, right? And to make the deal even sweeter, we are leveraging sort of our balance sheet to take potentially things like first loss and all of that. So really the idea is, can we give you exposure to the India credit opportunity without you having to go out and hire like 100 people, right? Which was what we did when we get started. It took us about a year to also get the license and all of that. So the idea is, okay, if you want to build it, sure, but there's also a graveyard of many businesses that have tried and not worked out. We have built something in 5 years that has worked out pretty well. So would you want to come on board with us, for example? Yeah.
Is the debt financing model still 100% to this day fiat, or has the Venn diagrams overlapped already and you started extending debt as tokens?
Yeah.
And if so, in which protocol?
Good question. Unfortunately, still entirely fiat today. So that's the reason for the existence of our venture business. It's really to be the frontier, to experiment. So for example, for Saison Capital, for our companies that we invest in, we even do liquidity pool seeding, for example, but that's from our venture pocket, right? And I think the way we see it, it's high risk, high returns. Of course, we are tracking very closely these developments of putting that on the blockchain. In fact, the geography that we are looking at it most closely is in Brazil. Because the Brazil Central Bank has just been phenomenal in terms of encouraging this. So it's on our radar, but I think by and large, it's still, I would say the space is largely experimental, so we're not in a rush to tokenize everything for the sake of tokenizing it. Yeah. Yes?
Your lending focus, is that all consumer or B2B or both?
It's actually very mixed, but very focused on the micro and small enterprises, which micro is like your one-man shop, right? So it's a bit blur whether it's a business or a personal, but really it's a mix. Really more focused on a micro and small. Critically, we usually, for the micro segment, we rarely go direct. We do it through other fintechs. So for example, we identify some of the more promising fintechs in each region. We invest both equity and debt. So for the debt side, we lend to the fintech, and then the fintech lends on to these end consumers. I think there was a follow-up.
I actually had a follow-up question.
Yep.
Are you selling down assets from the Indian entity or from any of your entities, or?
No. In fact, we have a huge pipeline, and one of my colleagues is there later if you would like to chat, if you can raise your hand, Mao. Yes, she's the credit expert over there. But look, the reason why is because we feel like India is so rich of opportunities that it's like the growth of opportunities, it's so fast that our balance sheet growth can't keep up, right? So the idea is we are looking to increase leverage, to increase access. Yeah.
From a fintech engagement perspective, India and Brazil are somewhat similar in terms of UPI and PIX, right? Versus Indonesia, which doesn't really have that infrastructure yet. So how does that change your approach to these markets?
Yeah. I think it's very evident, actually, in terms of the maturity of these ecosystems. India, Brazil being a lot, let's say, higher, a lot more mature than a place like Indonesia. Accordingly, we actually scale our operations and our size correspondingly, right? So if you think about our loan book, even let's say in a place like Brazil, it's on track to far exceed Indonesia, for example, even though both, let's say, have the largest countries in each region, right? At the end of the day, in private credit, what really matters is risk, right? Because the returns are fixed. What matters is how do you protect the downside? And so that's always what we think about front and center. And one of the largest downsides is the macro tailwind, right? So in a place like Indonesia, where infrastructure is a bit more challenged, we still believe that there's opportunities, we still invest, but I think we're a lot more cautious as compared to a place like India and Brazil, where you can rely on the eKYC credibly, as compared to other countries where you cannot.